The Dayton's Bluff Heritage Preservation District, locally designated in 1992, was St. Paul's first largely working-class heritage preservation district. Since its founding in 1998, Historic St. Paul has been involved in numerous efforts to support investments in small business and affordable housing in the district.
When neighbors first started thinking about pursuing a heritage preservation district in Dayton's Bluff, it was very out of the ordinary for St. Paul at the time. It was the first working class historic district in the city of St. Paul. There was just a lot of apprehension about doing that. What does that mean? What does that mean in terms of affordability? What does that mean in terms of being able to attract investment? The city did not really have experience combining affordable housing with historic preservation on a neighborhood scale in this kind of community, where it's primarily single-family homes and small multiple-family homes. And so that was a real challenge. The 4th Street Preservation Project was a very unique situation where the city owned multiple properties on a single block. Initially, the intent was to demolish them and build new homes. But neighbors really wanted to find a way to make preservation work on the block. We did a lot of planning, a lot of visioning. It was an opportunity to look bigger picture at the neighborhood and say, these are the strengths and these are the opportunities. The 4th Street project overall is really an incredible piece of work. It represents an amazing partnership with the city and community residents and nonprofit organizations that really came together to make that happen.
As the 4th Street Preservation Project was coming to a successful conclusion, Dayton's Bluff neighbors were shocked to learn of plans to demolish 7 city-owned properties in the Dayton's Bluff district.
Historic St. Paul got a call from a neighbor alerting us to an HPC agenda that had the demolition of 7 HRA-owned properties in the Dayton's Bluff district. Aaron Rubenstein was working in the office at the time, and he said, well, that's a regular demolition derby. And it was significant and it was alarming. Looking at the loss of 7 properties in a small geographic area really got people's attention. And it motivated neighbors to say, let's try to find a different approach here.
The Dayton's Bluff neighborhood folks said, just give us 6 months to market these properties. And at the end of the 6 months, if we haven't found qualified buyers, we will give up and, you can demolish them. And then the neighborhood just sprung into action, and it was just amazing. Planning the vacant building home tour, and Carrie Obrey made that incredible booklet with all the histories of the homes, and it came together.
I first heard about the demolition, but I didn't respond right away. I didn't know how to respond. You need an education in historic preservation to know just what can be done and what can be accomplished. So this whole education in historic preservation that came out of this is amazing to me. To go from learning that you could save houses that look like that, but they could look spectacular when you were done.
If it weren't for the resounding message from the neighbors that they wanted to try to find a way to make this work, it wouldn't have happened. And they stepped up, they organized the vacant home tour, marketed it, staffed it. They really got out there and acted as ambassadors for the neighborhood, saying this is our community and we love it here. And we want you to consider making this your community as well.
So many more people came. The media was interested like you wouldn't believe. There were so many stories that ran because of it. And every property was saved. It's really because of Carol Carey, and I'm just thankful for her and the work that she does. It makes me so proud.
PED, which is the HRA, which is the council meeting as the HRA, had been supposedly marketing them for 5 to 10 years. And the neighborhood in 6 months found viable proposals 14 viable proposals for those buildings. The staff and my colleagues were kind of like, neighbors are our allies and can help us market and sell things and make their neighborhoods better at the same time. That was huge, and PED said that too. PED should never consider itself alone in marketing a property. It should always reach out to the neighbors and say, what would you like to see here, and can you help us spread the word? So it was a really important lesson for the city to learn that communities can be the best sales and marketing people for difficult properties.
The city felt it was a success at the end. I think that they even may have learned something about working in partnership with community. I think community members were empowered because their work and their advocacy mattered. And at the end of the day, we ended up with 7 units of affordable housing, 4 of them rental, and 1 amazing live workspace that now houses a young family. And a number of really handsome buildings that can continue serving the community.
Just imagine what it would look like if all of these houses were fixed up and restored to their original condition. There's just so much detail and character, and a lot of it right now is hiding behind people's bad decisions, lack of resources, which of course you have to understand, but there's just so much that we've lost, but if we were able to go back to these houses, we would gain so much. This nonprofit has proven that you can preserve houses, which sounds fancy and high-end, but that you can do it without displacing people. In fact, you can bring people in because of it. And that's one of the most motivating things about Historic St. Paul, is that commitment to equity through historic preservation.
Once again, Historic St. Paul would like to thank our partners and the donors that make this work possible. If you're inspired by this work, please consider contacting your local city representatives to voice support for preservation. Click on the link below to learn about current fundraising efforts and to make a gift. And stay tuned for Dayton's Bluff Part 2, the story of 208 Bates.